So today we are free moving with card number 2, the High Priestess. High Priestess, or the Priestess. So different names, same card, number 2, slightly different names, still all the same concept. Expressed and explored wonderfully, uniquely within these cards and the symbolism. I decided to go for 5 because why not? Personally, for me, this is one of my most favourite cards, concepts, divinities, wisdoms, communes that I know. So twos. I mean, twos are really interesting when you've gone from the nothing, the zero, the full, the complete, to the one, to action, to will, self, desire, all these things. The next logical progression is in 2, going with holy, holy, holy. If I'm in this beast, in this machine of being called self, I'm gonna need some help. And I mean, ultimately, I think this card really boils down to that in many regards. We've animated as spark, as energy, as soul, as being into the flesh. We recognise this as a oftentimes novel, strange, unfamiliar experience for a lot of reasons, and on the personal level. And then we go, wow, we're driving this. We are driving this. So, where do you go to consult, to define what one is? Guidance. There's no manual. There's no manual that comes with it. Strangely enough. If it was, it would probably be in all sorts of different languages and bits strewn in all different corners, and would almost take a lifetime to acquire the manual and get it into a sort of functional kind of cohesiveness. But that's part of the journey and part of the fun sometimes with it all. We're here to learn and grow, and that's what will happen. But when we realise we need something other than what we have solely in self on a personal, individuated sense, to me, oftentimes when the search of the world and other beings and ideas and concepts of culture, society, have been exhausted in a sense, or been shown to be somewhat shallow and lacking and not adequate enough as a sense of guidance or authority, as it may be called, then that's where I personally believe the High Priestess has in some ways has a way in, or at least has an invitation towards us. And sometimes earlier, sometimes lots of different circumstances and situations. And so it's a little bit about some things. So I'll start. Where will I start? Some of the symbolism. So in this card is really cool. This one is the Cosmic Tarot, and the symbolism's clean, sharp, very, very nice, quite simplified, but flicking through the particular deck, I think this one's still quite packed with quite a bit of things. So in twos we have this duality, light and dark, yin yang, feminine, masculine. We have the faint hint of sun symbolism, which in many regards is, I would say, tied to the magician as well, or as a hint at the magician, the self, the incarnate, individuated self, radiating down. But we also have this fantastic, beautiful water symbolism and the hint of darkness and stars and the very thin sliver of moon, which you will see in most traditional tarot decks. There is some component of that within the card, and also a book. And in this book we have the symbols of the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. That's the basics of symbolism stripped back. You'll also notice that majority of cards that portray the High Priestess will use the colour blue to signify wisdom. But there's also associations to water, to psychic powers. This is a card of initiation into the mysteries via the Divine Lady, or a Divine Lady, a Divine Feminine aspect and component. You'll oftentimes see some form of masking, in a sense, or representative of the veil, or in the Crowley card, which Crowley leader Frida Lady Harris card, you'll see it represented more as a matrix, and that sort of peeking behind the material to the truth, the code, the source, the wisdom behind, inside, all around really. But it's just our perception. Sometimes we get removed when we operate in the physical realm to the subtleties behind it. And to me personally, the High Priestess is a fount of knowledge about the mysteries, all mysteries, psychic powers, gifts, abilities, the flow of information, truth, wisdom. So concepts of Sophia as well is within there, a feminized version of wisdom. Indeed. So yeah, so it's a different one on a different level, because it has associations with water, with psychic knowing. It's a very different card to the head, the dry intellect, the often portrayed masculine mind space that pursues knowledge and its gifts and its learnings. The High Priestess is a lot more about the intuitive, the feeling knowledge, the knowing, and a really, 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 really interesting component to this is it's quite a different energy. It doesn't. I've said this before, and I'm softening my particular concept around it, but I will say, and I will call her a she, does not tolerate fools. I mean, we're up to number 2 now. If you're still foolish, then, what is it? Snakes and ladders. You go down back to the start. Because you have to sort of be receptive, and I think that's one of the things about 2 energy, as much as it is made up of 2 ones. If we look and we see it there, even in 11, you can't get stuck in the 1 and progress. You literally can't. It's impossible. You might seem to progress on a material sense, but you will not progress on larger, bigger senses without collaboration, cooperation, without a sort of humbleness and humility to understand that that you don't know, that you're prepared to know, but part of that being prepared to know, you have to accept you don't know things, and be prepared for a journey unto the mystery, and part of that is a form of trust, is a form of surrender. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be painful. Again, it's just another kind of part of the process of slightly loosening the grip of ego, which can hold us in severe binds from many, many, many things. So, in other symbolism, we have here the beautiful, what is it called now? Alchemist Garden. Here we go. Represented as Blue Lotus, which I really like. Blue Lotus flower tea. Had some recently. Subtle, but probably relatively potent in certain quantities and situations. But again, I think that's a recognition that any form of substance, food, experience, whatever we draw into our beings, if we're not somewhat open and receptive to that, we will miss the gifts that are there. Again, with pharmacopoeia, if we go on with preconceived notions, or with I know what this is about, or there's not much to it, then you won't get much out of it. I think that's a good lesson within self being within this world. I'll move now to another lovely image. Here we have the High Priestess in the Shadowscapes Tarot, and this gorgeous white owl, which I think a white owl appears at the start of the Labyrinth. There it does. David Bowie is a white owl. And traditional symbolism of knowledge and wisdom. This deck is so amazing. You can see a navel exposed within this High Priestess, and her feet very, very wonderfully. Yeah, a navel is for some the holiest of holies. It's a connection to our mother, but etherically it's also a place of sacred chakras, of energy, of sacred, well, the womb, the stomach, a sacred place of knowing, of kind of into the realms of gestation, but also fertilization as well. There's some nice symbolism here of the pomegranate, very, very wonderful, great for so many health reasons, and traditionally a symbolism of life and death / rebirth, but also passion and lust as well, which are components of both life and death, if we feel inclined to try that on as a thought. Some really, really beautiful kind of gentle autumn symbolism portrayed in this card with these kind of falling leaves. And I'd say it's like mushrooms yesterday, and unless you were kind of looking or prepared to go beneath the surface layer of what is or what appears, rummage around in the leaf litter, you don't know what's there. You don't know what's behind that. Even within the mushroom, there's like the mycelial network underground. And again, there's hints of peering beneath, understanding the connections, the depth that things actually have in other, not other ways, but in subtler, energetic ways, in connected ways, in meaning ways. And this is so much the High Priestess. And again, very similar within the lotus, the flower, the lily pad that sits atop the water. So like our kind of mind as well. It's the conscious. What sits underneath is the subconscious. And as much as mind is air, traditionally, it's also so much water. Like the fluids of our bodies are, are messengers. Without fluids, like very little would move. There's neurons firing, so there's sort of fire energy within the brain as well. Like strictly one thing is not one thing. They're all interwoven and intermixed. But water is often a sign of the subconscious as well. So the depths, what's in there within self, but also within this whole world, these other layers beneath the water, the stem, again, reminiscent of the umbilicus and where that goes and what that connects to deep into the earth, deep for nutrients, for nourishment, for understanding and forming. Without that, there is no flower at all. There's not even the pad. Yeah, and a pad's as good as a flower, really. Both necessary. And yeah, this is what I was talking about before. I really like this, and it's beautiful. It echoes the same sort of thing, and there's also chalice symbolism here. The fertility of creation, really, of sexual energy, of fluid, of many things in the pose that this figure has, which is wonderfully echoed here in this representation, and this beautiful energy of colour and form, which this particular the Thoth deck has so much of. All of it is so amazing, and I really like this camel here. It's really good, and it was interesting. I was musing, I think maybe from seeing this card, but maybe not, just in general, about the saying, a biblical saying about a camel through the eye of a needle. So again, that particular quote, I think, references the need to strip away materialism, and not necessarily, let's say, in the absolute purest sense in the physical realm, because I think that kind of misses the point of what the saying is. It's like stripping away your eyes from the preoccupation with materialism, that when you do that, you're able to see so much more, or understand so much more. And in many regards, this is what the priestess or the high priestess will ask you to do in some format or way, which is probably why a lot of the ancient cults would have had initiation rituals. And there were many ones there. And the initiation rituals serve function. It's practical magic to help us get into particular states of being, so we can work with different energies, so we can understand certain things, and that's what it be. Yeah, so wonderfully in the final card I'm going to take a little look-see at is the Alchemical Visions Tarot. So much there. Yeah, I really like these robes down the bottom. Figureless robes. And that's wonderful, because almost as a card, that symbolism on its own, two empty robes. It's like the High Priestess is about the unseen, is about the worlds beyond, is about the kind of the energy